Happy birthday, Bruce Lee. That's right, this Thanksgiving Day, November 27, 2025, was not only Thanksgiving Day, which I didn't really get to enjoy because I had this toothache. And you ever have a toothache on Thanksgiving Day? And since it was the holiday, Thanksgiving Day on a Thursday, I got to wait till Monday to go to the dentist. So I got to have this toothache not only Thanksgiving Day, which was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, until next week, until Monday. So I hope your Thanksgiving was better than mine. So instead of celebrating Thanksgiving Day, I celebrated Bruce Lee Day. And I watched this Bruce Lee documentary. Well, this year's A Warrior's Journey, very good documentary. And then, of course, you got Bruce Lee box set here, DVD box set of all his movies. And, of course, Enter the Dragon is an all-time classic. And this is probably one of the best Bruce Lee biographies by Matthew Polly. As a matter of fact, the only really full-length biography of Bruce Lee is this one here. There's a lot of books about him, but this is really the best as far as, like I said, full-length biography. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Bruce Lee in honor of his birthday that just passed. Man, he passed away in 1973. Wow. The year of Enter the Dragon. That was he didn't even get to see the release, the movie's release. He passed away before they released it. He completed it, but he never got to really see it, in the theater. Only 32 years old. Died a very strange death, the way he died. He was such a perfect physical specimen, but it was some kind of brain hemorrhage and brought on by an allergy to either the hashish he smoked a lot to relax or this painkiller that this actress friend of his gave him. But anyway, he died much too soon. And man, had he lived, he'd have been the biggest action star ever. I'm convinced of that. Yeah, he's a superstar, after only making really 5 full-length features. Well, 4.5 really. I mean, he started out in acting as a kid, like 6 years old. His father was an actor, and got Bruce Lee in movies in China. He made a lot of movies. He was kind of like a little rascal, a little tough guy. And even for a kid his age, he showed a lot of range. But he wasn't really doing any martial arts. I mean, he got in a lot of fights in the movies as a kid, But it wasn't until he came to the States and he opened up some martial arts schools, particularly Jeet Kune Do, Kung Fu, was his thing. And he was very innovative with the martial arts, and he opened up some schools in Seattle, Washington. And then he was in tournaments, and it was in one of those tournaments that they saw him and cast him as Kato in the Green Hornet, 1966-67 television series. He was also promised a lead in the Kung Fu series that they gave to David Carradine, because they felt, an Asian guy can't be a lead, even though the character was supposed to be Asian. So Bruce Lee broke down a lot of barriers for a lot of Asian actors. If it wasn't for Bruce Lee, we probably wouldn't have Jackie Chan and all those other Asian superstars that we have today. Bruce Lee was the barrier breaker. He broke down, like I said, broke down all the barriers for other Asian actors to follow, or Asian martial artists. And he showed that those movies, because up until then, the first 3 movies he made in China, they felt those movies wouldn't sell in the United States. But when they imported them here, and mainly this was because of Bruce Lee being in the lead, those movies really took off, and then, they wound up making Enter the Dragon. So after the Green Hornet was canceled, the Green Hornet show, TV series, where he was very popular as Kato, when, he was the secondary character. The Green Hornet was the main character, and Kato was his his aid. But Bruce Lee with that kung fu stole the show. I remember in my neighborhood, all the kids, we all loved Bruce Lee. We really were like fascinated by the Green Hornet show because of him, and we all watched it and couldn't wait to see, hey, that little Asian guy, doing that martial arts. And as a matter of fact, up until that time, when you only got in a street fight, we would be punching each other. And if a guy kicked, that was considered, hey, you fight like a girl. What are you, a sissy? What are you, a fairy? In those days, that's what the words people used. And, a man was supposed to just throw punches. Well, when Bruce Lee came on the scene, next thing you know, everybody's street fighting is kicking each other. That became cool. A man was allowed to kick. And Bruce Lee also brought all of us together. As far as, in those days, this was, like I said, 1966 with the Green Hornet. He brought all nationalities together. In school, I, as a Italian American, I bonded with a lot of the Puerto Ricans and the black kids, my age at the time. We all bonded because of our love for Bruce Lee. And that's the truth, And Bruce Lee was, like I said, he was really made an impact with that kung fu. We never seen anything like it up until then. And he only made like really 5 feature films, 4.5, because the first, I'm talking about those Bruce Lee kung fu movies. He was in some movies, small parts before that, and like I said, as a kid, he made a lot of movies in China. But in China, he made the first kung fu movie at the time. Well, not the first, but the one that really took off was The Big Boss. And in the States, they called it Fist of Fury. Then his second movie in China was called Fist of Fury. Here in the States, they called it The Chinese Connection. And then he was making Way of the Dragon, or he made Way of the Dragon, which in the States was called Return of the Dragon because it was released after his next movie, which was Enter the Dragon. Now, Enter the Dragon was his first, big Hollywood movie because all the other 3 were made in China. And like I said, unfortunately, he left us before that movie was even released, but he sure left behind a hell of a legacy for his short lifetime in those 32 years. He was an innovator, a barrier breaker, broke down a lot of doors for other Asian actors and martial artists. And man, Bruce Lee, and he's still popular to this day. Everyone knows Bruce Lee. You mention Bruce Lee, nobody ever says, who? Everyone knows Bruce Lee. He's one of those immortals. He's up there like with Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra. You don't have to like them, but you know who they are. And Bruce Lee is right in that category. The Beatles, there's a few, not many. A lot of people have forgotten. I remember when I was growing up, Humphrey Bogart, was revitalized. But now, today, a lot of young people don't even know who he is anymore, but they still know Bruce Lee, and they still know, like I said, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe. There's a few, So anyway, yeah, Bruce Lee. Bruce, you left us too soon, but you left behind a great legacy. And I have a feeling Bruce Lee will never be forgotten. Long live Bruce Lee.